Our scripture reading tonight is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 10, verses 35 to 45. Listen with me for the word of God. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to him and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What is it you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Grant us to sit one at your right hand and one at your left in your glory." But Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" They replied, "We are able." Then Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared." When the 10 heard this, they began to be angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and said to them, "You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." Here endeth our reading. Praise be to God.
If I were to ask you to define leadership, and don't worry, I won't point any of you out, I'm deeply Presbyterian myself, and I would hate a minister to do that to me. Most would give the definition: leadership is about uniting people together to achieve a common goal, or achieving results through people, or worded more cynically, using people to achieve results. On the face of it, that seems like a fair definition. I'll ask you to hold that definition for a moment. We'll come back to it later. Using people to achieve results. During many Wednesday night live sessions, we have often spoken about how limiting or restrictive it is, to humanity's detriment, that the powers that be at the time put a back cover on the Bible as we know it. There have been so many great texts written subsequently that deserve a place in the Bible. So this evening I'm removing the back cover, and I'll be including and preaching from the book of Skatemer, chapter 1, verse 1 to N, as well as from the book of Immanuel Kant, quoting one of his categorical imperatives, as he called it. In the early 1980s, social anthropologist Etzko Skatemer led a team of researchers investigating employee discontentment. The research set out to examine the trust of employees in management on the mines. It was based on the assumption that if employees trust their managers, then they will be content. Conversely, if they mistrust their managers, then they would be discontent. The results from the research showed remarkable variations. They suggested that despite the harsh employment conditions then prevalent in apartheid South Africa, employees and employers were not necessarily separated absolutely, in which it was impossible for black employees to trust white management. The surprising results prompted the question, what would explain the various levels of trust? The list of possible explanations turned out to be quite long. I'll go through them quickly. Physical conditions. Research showed that there were situations where those housed in large modern mines, where conditions were very good, trust in management was poorer than in other mines. A labor mix. The results showed that although Shangans tended to have a higher trust in management, the trend was so mine-specific that it could not explain the problem of trust in management in any essential sense. Rates of pay. The results showed that the rate of pay was immaterial and had no bearing to the extent at which there was trust in management. Political influence. Behind this hypothesis was a view that unless a political settlement was reached, the workplace would remain a primary venue where black employees would vent their political frustrations. But the results showed that in one mine close to a highly politicized township, workers had very high levels of trust in management. Lack of human resources functions. Also, results showed that where HR function was, whether it was sophisticated or rudimentary, it made no difference. Trade union activity, again, results showed that this was not the case, even to the extent that on one particular mine where trade union involvement was equal, trust in management varied between divisions. And lastly, management style. The question was posed, do you feel that relations with management have improved, stayed good, stayed bad, or deteriorated over the last 2 or 3 years? In the next question, the employees were asked to give their reasons. On all 4 mines, the men who said that relations with management had improved or stayed good believed that it was because management attended to grievances and treated them like human beings. Men who felt that the grievance procedure was effective had a positive trust in management. And put more powerfully, management was accepted or rejected on the strength of their perceived interest in the employees, and trust was granted or withheld on this basis. And very simply, they wanted management to care with sincere intent. This was the birth of Skatema's care and growth framework. So let's go back to the definition of leadership, using people to achieve a goal. In this definition, the implication is that the people are the means and the goal is the end. So I'll just demonstrate it. Yeah. So you have people and then goal. Immanuel Kant, the German philosopher, who is famous for formulating his theory of categorical imperative, categorical meaning valid in all contexts, in every situation, to every human without condition. Imperative meaning a command to be followed. So a command to follow in every situation without exception. One of these categorical imperatives he states as follows: act not that you use humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, always at the same time as an end, never merely as a means. This is a typical snooty academic statement. Apologies to any professors in the church. So if I can simply simplify that statement, especially for myself to understand, what he's saying is that you should never use people, even yourself, as a means to some other end. Rather, people, even yourself, must also be treated as the end. This is the basis on which you should judge whether your actions are moral or immoral. Are you using people as your means to an end? If you are, then that is immoral. So according to Kant, our definition of leadership is immoral, since we are using people to achieve our goal. Of course, just because Immanuel Kant was given the title of philosopher, we can't just take what he says to be the rule for life. So let's unpack that more by corroborating his categorical imperative with Skatema's care and growth framework. Using people to achieve a goal as their leader would require you to ask the question, how will I get this group of people to achieve this goal? In other words, how can I exercise my power over them to achieve this goal? There are broadly 2 approaches, or 2 what appear to be power strategies. You compel or force them to do things through hard power strategies. These would include rank, so a president, a general in the army, do what I tell you because I'm your supervisor. There will be title, a professor, your honor, or Dr. John Smith is calling for a reservation. You can use your status, such as the only woman on a committee, to get a woman's opinion. You can use your reputation, experience. You can dominate by being loud and boisterous. And of course, there's the physical force. So that's 1, you can compel or force. And 2 is you can persuade them to do the things through soft power strategies, such as flattery, kind words, or humor, or seduction, or incentives, especially financial incentives. If you use this power strategy to get people to do what you want them to do, you have leveraged 2 emotions in people. In the hard power strategies, where you compel or force, you've invoked and leveraged fear. People do what you tell them to do because they are scared. A great example is something we discussed at Wednesday Night Live the other evening, where government used the power strategy of rank or title to control their people through religion. If you behave badly, you will go to hell. Effectively controlling the citizens through fear of eternal suffering. Another example in a work environment this time is to use the power strategy of experience by saying, I've been here 10 years, do it my way. Implying that there will be some form of punishment if the subordinate does not. In the soft power strategies where you persuade, you've invoked and leveraged greed. People do what you tell them to do because they love getting something they want or like. Following on the hell example, citizens were controlled through seduction of heaven. But if fear and greed drive actions, that means that when they are removed, there will be no movement. Once you stop pulling rank, they won't do what you tell them to do because they are no longer fearful anymore. Once you stop flattering them, they won't do what you tell them to do because there are no longer any kind words to motivate them. Why is this? It's because fear and greed are about getting, not giving. Their motive or intention is to get. When hard power strategies are imposed, the employee wants to get an absence of the punishment. When soft power strategies are imposed, the employee wants to get the flattering compliments or financial incentive. They only give their movement because they get. So once you stop getting, once that fear or greed or greed is removed, they stop giving. This means that there was never any willingness. That's from the subordinate side. That's their intention. But let's look at the leader's motive. The leader, by using the people as a means, also has the intention of getting a result. They only give the financial incentive because they get a result. As soon as you want to get something, you lose power. You've handed the power over to the person from whom you want to get. This is the law for all relationships. Even in a parent-child relationship, a screaming baby has the power because the supposed leader in the relationship wants to get the baby to keep quiet. And it's also why people say possession is 9/10 of the law. So as a leader, when your intention is to get, you no longer have power. All you have is a set of controls. And what is wrong with controls? Well, people resist and rebel against them. When hard power strategies, which we'll now call hard controls, are applied to us, we know that the intention of the leader is to get, essentially a malevolent intent, we feel forced or bullied, and our natural response is to resist. When a soft control is applied, and we know that the intention of the leader is to get, again, a malevolent intent, we feel manipulated, and our natural response is to manipulate back or rebel. An example is a financial incentive scheme for salespeople. If they reach their target for the month, they will delay any further sales opportunities so that they can push them into the next month, so as to help them achieve next month's target. They manipulated back by finding a loophole in the way that they were manipulated. This is obviously bad for business, and you can see how it would inevitably lead to conflict when the boss eventually finds out. So what you can see is that a power strategy with an intention to get results in either resistance or rebellion. And you don't have power, you have nothing but a set of controls. Hard controls, which we know as sticks, and soft controls, which we know as carrots. But legitimate leaders have power. And with power, and this power exists when a leader is trusted. How do you earn trust? In the research I spoke about right at the beginning, miners who felt that the grievance procedure was effective had a positive trust in management. In other words, when management sincerely cared, they were trusted. So you earn trust through caring unconditionally. You don't want to get something. Unconditional caring shows your sincere, benevolent intent. How do you show conditional care? You care for things when you suspend your own agenda and you give your time and your attention. So one way to earn trust is to care. Another way to earn trust is by giving trust. If you are willing to take the risk to trust others, then others will be willing to take the risk to trust you. Giving trust means that you are enabling them to grow, learn from their own mistakes and their own victories, empowering them to make their own decisions. Earlier I gave the example of, I've been here 10 years, do it my way. An approach in which you give trust would be, I've been here 10 years, if you need any guidance, let me know and I'll gladly help you. In this way, you are empowering and growing them. And it's through caring that you earn the right to grow them. Now let's go back to the definition of leadership, using people to achieve a goal. What I've hopefully explained is that this definition is based on the intention of getting for both parties, which leads to resistance and rebellion. But if a legitimate leadership of power earned through trust was about caring and growing your people, then the only means you have to do that in a business environment, for example, is their job or the goals that they need to achieve in their job. So leadership is no longer using people to achieve the goal, it's using the goal to grow people. The goal is the means and the people is the end, or the ends. Immanuel Kant will be very pleased that we've reached this conclusion. And Hansi will be pleased that I reference former Lions coach Johan Ackermann, who said, "My goal is not to get others to win rugby games. My goal is to make better people of rugby players." Leadership is input-based, not output-based. Leadership is about contribution, not extraction. In conclusion, it is through giving or serving that you earn trust and thus a legitimate leadership. You give care by giving your time and attention. You give trust to grow people. And because people give to three things, a person, a passion, or a purpose, as the legitimate leader, they'll give to you as the person, and thus give you the power to lead. I'm not well versed enough in the context of the Bible to say, and this is how Jesus, according to those who wrote about him, applied the care and growth framework in his leadership. But it would make for richer reading of the Bible, to look out for it and examine how you could apply this example to your own positions of leadership. I just want to point out my research. This is the book that Etzko Skatemer published. It's called Leadership. To serve takes a lot of maturity, and so he wrote a book called Intent, which explains how to grow in maturity. And then one of his partners in the 1980s was Wendy Lamburn, who showed how to apply legitimate leadership to the workplace, and she wrote this book, Legitimate Leadership. That was the source of my research.